Welcome to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke, Alexandria, Minnesota. Today we're going to take a look at the power to convene. We've talked about that here before. I'm in a process of getting some things moved around on our website, informtv.com, that you can pass some of our programs on to your friends, and you can go and look at some programs that you may have missed or wanted to hear a certain portion of it again, or there was some technical difficulties with the community station that you're involved with in either in the Fargo-Moorhead metro area or outstate Minnesota. And we're finally getting to the point where I think we're starting to see some positives as far as maybe getting a little better at bringing you pieces of the puzzle. And I want you to understand that I'm not a journalist. I don't claim to be a journalist. I'll never be a journalist. And I'm a press person. I'm an observationist. And in this process of Inform TV, in my cumbersome country ways, I'm here to give you pieces of the puzzle. And hopefully, as you become regular listeners of Inform TV, suddenly you'll be in a position where you see where we're coming from, or you'll understand a particular segment of the economy, politics, our society today, our world today, that helps you do a better job of seeing that the wishes of the people are taken care of. Now, as the financial year and the calendar year come to an end, we continue to hear some of the projections and how what's going to happen in the coming year, the European situation, and we have been talking about those issues. We're going to continue to talk about them in the coming year as well. And we're also going to be here from a standpoint of looking at this incredible disparity of incomes. I don't think we as a society continue to call ourselves the United States, or even to be in a position of talking about the middle class. I think we've basically erased the middle class. I don't believe in the talk that we hear constantly about the 1%. Basically, we have 30% enjoying the American dream right now. They either have a certified position, own their own business, are a public employee, or they're in a corporate situation where their industry is basically a mini monopoly. And they're high enough up in the food chain of that business structure that they're getting good pay. So our challenge is to look at the remaining 75%, the 35% that is incredibly struggling, the working poor, and the other 35% that may have, by standards of the bottom 35%, pretty good income, but they were caught in the housing mayhem of getting too big of house payments, too big of car payments, and all of a sudden they're finding they're in that group that corporate America and our certification process of all, whether it's medical or certain businesses, they're finding themselves kind of the cat kind of screeching down the tin roof. I mean, they're still on the upper level of income, but they're facing incredible challenges. And as the year evolves in 2012, their challenges are going to get bigger. So obviously our goal here at Inform TV is to try to address that. And we're going to look at today the power to convene. And we're going to look at the new Senate Majority Leader here in the state of Minnesota. And some of the things both the Democrats in Minnesota and the Republicans have picked up. They all want to be the power to convene special interests, to convene the people that do a good job of taking care of them and their friends. And with that, I want to do a couple house cleaning issues of things we talked about before. Remember, I had the call of a person that wanted to know where there's lutefisk. Well, I just want to clarify, the Corral Supper Club in Nelson, Minnesota, you can still get lutefisk there, but I didn't mention this last time. It's on Tuesday nights. So, and it's going to go through at least the third Tuesday of January. So you want good old lutefisk, Swedish meatballs, or go there for just their good ribs, chicken, steaks, whatever. On the third Tuesday, by the third Tuesday of January, they may end. They may take it all the way through January. But if you want lutefisk, go to Nelson, Minnesota, Corral Supper Club there on Tuesday evening from 4 to 8, and you get your lutefisk on Tuesdays only. And people, I had a call, where is this place to get sandblasting? I never even heard of Westport. Westport's a little town straight south of straight south of Osakis. If you're coming either direction on 94, you get to the Osakis exit and you just go straight south about 10 miles, something like that. And it's called Custom Sandblasting and Painting. Dustin there does a great job. So if you need that sandblasting that I've had a couple calls on, it's Custom Sandblasting and Painting in Westport, Minnesota. I talked about the pipeline deal of my good friends out there in Carlos, Minnesota. Mere Fabrication, they understand I've got a third world income, so my project of getting a stand for this piece of pipe hasn't been in a way to interfere with their other duties. So you're going to have to wait probably another week to go to Fat Daddy's, even of to see this piece of pipe. But we're going to have it there in short order. So if you go there on New Year's Eve, maybe I'll have it there. But keep track of stopping off at Fat Daddy's in Alexandria. We're going to get that piece of pipe there just as soon as possible. So bear in mind with that. The other thing people said, can you add a segment? You always talk about your third world income. I have a third world income too. Give us some products and ideas you do. So here's one of the things that I found when you go into Walmart, whether you're in Fargo or you're in Detroit Lakes or Wadena or wherever you're at, when you go into the local Walmart, if you will drink Diet Pop like I do and have a third world income, they've got a new Diet Pop there, and they just call it Diet Cola. That's all it is. But it's a half decent can of pop. So check with your Walmart people on that. Just Diet Cola. And with that, we're going to take a look at this, the power to convene. Because I think this is what has led us, both on our state level, whether you're North Dakota or Minnesota or some other state, of finding that the average citizen has found out the 70%, they're just being left out. And the power to convene, I firmly believe, is a big part of it. And so with that, I want to go into the situation here of the power to convene and take a look at this. And as we look at our policies, and watch close, I think you're going to be able to see some of the people in there as well. But here we're going to take a look at the policy consensus initiative.
Traditionally, legislators have seen themselves as policymakers, power brokers, problem solvers, kind of in effect, elect me, let me do my job, and if I need you, I'll call you. I think there's a changing role that is emerging, and that legislators are being called into arenas in a different manner. They have to be both advocates as well as facilitating leaders. They need to be experts but at the same time engage the public. And so the Policy Consensus Initiative has been working on helping train legislators to use a power they have or a responsibility that they have. And we refer to it as the power to convene. By virtue of being elected to a state legislative office, the public has given you a certain authority. And one of these is the power to bring people together. Legislators need to use their power to provide a kind of a safe, neutral place for diverse opinions to try to reach a consensus. So we'd like to encourage more legislators to be conveners, because if you can get locally people to come together on a solution to a problem, that to me just seems to be the best kind of politics.
Well, my point is here, and we're going to try to put that on the website Inform TV, so you can go on our website and listen to it yourself. One of the things that I believe here in Inform TV, and I think other people are starting to understand where I'm coming from on here, is that we have to get back to electing leaders, people that are strong enough, financially comfortable enough, and their goals in their life is not to be Mr. or Mrs. Popularity, and start addressing the issues of, yes, we need to do that as government, but no, we don't need to do that in other areas, or government can't afford to do that. And so this tape, and I want you to look at, it is not a Democratic issue. I mean, Roger Moe obviously was a Democrat, controlled basically the legislative process for Minnesota for 30 to 40 years. And when you looked at that tape, you see powerful Democrats, or a mix of Democrats and Republicans. Dean Johnson, Senator Dean Johnson, was a Republican for a while, then became a Democrat, and he was on there as a convener of special interests, I would say. And yet at the same time, Michelle Bachmann was on that tape. So that's why I want you to encourage you to go to that site and look at that for yourself. For we're in a situation, these conveners have become incredibly powerful, and I think incredibly costly to us. And both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are heavily involved in it. And at the end, Roger Moe talked about it's good politics. I believe what Roger said. It's great politics, but it's lousy leadership. It's a lousy way to run our government, a democracy that our leaders are supposed to serve all the people and to bring balance in spending and policy, and not just favor special interests or the wealthy. Then at the same time now we have a new majority leader here in Minnesota that obviously, I don't believe was a good choice, but there was a whole bunch of them that were involved with the Koch group that didn't belong in there, but I don't think Senjam did either. And here's one of the reasons. We'll take a quick look on what he had to say relating to ethanol subsidies and what really took place. And this was in January of 2009 when he was the minority leader. And don't tell me he didn't know what was going on with ethanol subsidies. But listen to this as well.
Feed, sweetener for Pepsi Cola and so forth. So while ethanol is one byproduct of what you get out of a kernel of corn, there's an enormous amount of other things that are coming out of that.
Any further thoughts on the ethanol question?
I have one on Claremont, and I would say, and I believe that's off the subsidy program as well at this point, but it's been a tremendous agricultural resource for certainly our area, for the farmers, and frankly for a lot of people that work there. So it will be off. We're on a downward glide path on this in a couple of years, and these will stand on their own.
Well, once again, if you saw this whole tape where I had called into your legislator program, and I'll try to get the full tape here, and it shows the power of conveners, both the two Democrats in the program and the two Republican. Terrell Clark now that the Democrats are trying to resurrect to run for Congress in the 8th District, I believe it is. The former Speaker Keller is still an influential person's got a higher end state job now. And Seifert is out of politics, and I would say hurrah for that. But when we look at this particular tape, how all these people, including a Supreme Court justice, basically said these ethanol subsidies were relevant, and that they had a contract with these people, when in reality the government is not in the business of making contracts, the legislative auditor said. And one of the things that I want also that's going to be on our website you can look at is this ethanol subsidy program that I was in favor for. In fact, I benefited. I was a major stockholder in one of these plants. But I want to show you here what ticks me off about Syngem and his saying, well, it's about over. It's just bear in mind here a little bit, when in reality, his particular group there, if you remember right, at Claremont, after he said that in January of 2009, that summer, his group, the All Corn Clean Fuels there at Claremont, received $1 million and just a little over $1 million, $1,022,000. And by the following year, they received in fiscal 2011, in other words, in 2010, they got another $1 million. When he said, I believe they're off the program, don't tell me he didn't know they were still getting money. And by this past summer, when government was shut down, the only thing that was funded when the shutdown was going on, now these checks didn't go out to Syngem's friends until August. And I believe that's after the government was back in place. But they had authority to send the checks out if we'd have shut down for 2 months. The checks to the ethanol boys, the Friends of Syngem, and these other conveners of special interest all would have went out. In other words, his group got, after he made that statement on statewide public television, his group that said, when he said, I believe they're off the program, got about $3.6 million of taxpayer money. Now, if you go to our website, you'll see all these remaining 8 or 9 plants on this program over this so-called 10-year period, which you'll see started actually in 95 and 96 and 97 for just about all the recipients. In other words, if it was a 10-year program, it'd have been over in 2007, and certainly should be. In fact, I brought this up to Dean Johnson, Schwigum, and the whole Capitol Press Corps in front of the governor's office back when they were still talking about the Twin Stadium. At that point in time, there was $100 million that the ethanol industry didn't need that could have and should have put a roof on that new Twin Stadium. But nobody in the press told you about it. I shouldn't say press. The celebrity media people that are disguised as press in our capital didn't want to talk about this because they all had powerful advertisers that wanted to make sure that this ethanol money went out. And here I'll show you, when your state was struggling the last couple of years, in fiscal 11 and fiscal 12 that we're in right now, they still had $20 million to send out to their ethanol buddies, even though Plenty was unallotting school money, and another $13 million this past summer in 2011 to go for the ethanol subsidies. And the thing that also irks me that I'll try to put there for you to look at, and you can give me your opinion or say, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever. But we're trying to see that you're informed on the true issues of the day. This All Corn outlet that you can go online and see some of their things, they state, here's Senator Senjem telling us that, I believe my group is off the program, but here's the size of business that we sent $1.6 million this past summer to from Senjem's district. It says in their website they produce 141,500 gallons of ethanol per day. Just think of that. And yet we send them $1.6 million when you were paying upper $3 a gallon for gasoline. They also say they produce just about 52 million gallons a year in ethanol production. If they can produce 52 million gallons of ethanol, can't they take care of themselves financially? Of course they can. And one of their previous newsletters that I had looked at least for a period in time when they were getting money from the state, they were a close cooperative. In other words, if somebody wanted to sell stock, they had to sell it to one of their members because it was such a good thing financially. And at the same time, they grind 50,000 bushel of corn per day, it says here, which is a little over 50 semi-loads of corn come into that plant each day. And they grind 18 million bushel of corn. At 180 bushel per acre, people, that's 100,000 acres of corn. So I'm happy for them, but I'm not happy when these conveners of special interest mislead the public and fail to make adjustments in government. And we at Inform TV here, Alan Repke, we're going to keep you informed on the issues that should change. And you can go to our website, informtv.com, and look at these numbers for yourself, and send some of these to your friends and your legislative people, and take a look at that. And yet at the same time, it's not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. I'm furious at both of them, as should you. And when I look at this situation, it's not a situation where we have Democrats or Republicans. And don't get me wrong, I'm mad at both. But listen to this as well. Governor Dayton now, his new Secretary of Agriculture, and listen to what the Commissioner of Agriculture had to say here shortly after he was appointed when Dayton was elected governor of Minnesota.
The one issue was adding value to farmers' products, and I would have to say mission accomplished.
When it comes to ethanol, some feel there was an ethanol boom and then we're in a bust period.
I don't think we're in a bust, and I know there are other factors that we didn't even consider.
The cost of subsidies. For example, much of the boom that ethanol has created and enjoyed is at the cost of high subsidies. So is that the best use of tax dollars?
That support is actually owed. I think there's something in the area of $15 million that are owed to the ethanol industry, and once that payment is made, that is it. I don't see that that kind of support will continue on into the future, and certainly at the federal level, there's a tremendous amount of discussion that's going into the whole issue of producer credit, the 45-cent credit that goes to the blenders at this point in time. So yeah, I think that's coming to an end, but there was a promise made, and I would suspect that that promise will be kept at some point, maybe not.
Here's the point with our new Commissioner of Agriculture. What did he tell people when he first came into office in either January this year or February? What is taking place? The ethanol program, the mission was accomplished. Our farmers have been doing fantastic, and we all know that. Yet he referenced $15 million, but because of some of these plants, even though we've been funding some of these plants, they pulled out of the program instead of a $15 million cost, which our Ag Commissioner just talked about. It's down to $13 million. But $13 million that should have went to schools or counties or cities, at least in my view. And he also talked about we owed these people. Look at that former schedule I had up here. They started this back in 95, 96 as a 10-year program. Maybe we owed, definitely probably owed those people some money to get the industry off the ground. I was in favor of that, and so should you. 10% ethanol has been a good thing. But to say that we have to pay them a full amount when they've hit the best of times, not because of subsidies, but because of energy policy in this country and energy prices. And yet at the same time, I'm going to try to bring you up on a tape from the Taxpayers League when I called in to CENGEM when I was still living in Chaska back in 2007, I believe this was. Listen to this.
And it comes upon from two things. First of all, as you probably remember, the Democratic majority, when they took over, had to give out a few gavels, a few chairs and chairmanships. So they had to increase the number of committees to 38 committees.
Honey, are you willing to take phone calls?
Oh, absolutely. Love it.
All right. Alan in Chaska. Alan, you have a question?
Yeah, a lot of people in Minnesota are really concerned about the citizens out there in Browns Valley that are struggling and need some state help. And as listeners, always want to cut pork. And I think it's time the state ends the $4 million per quarter we send to the state's ethanol industry and use that money from one quarter at least to help the poor people out at Browns Valley, reroute that river a little bit, and actually help the homeowners get back in their homes and keep that community of Browns Valley strong.
Well, that certainly it made big news, and I remember the Democrats complaining viciously that the governor wasn't up there when the floodwaters were rising, which struck me as
right. And on KSTP, the governor said, "I can't break the law to help Browns Valley," but in reality, if he would break the ethanol producer payment program that served its purpose and got an ethanol industry going strong in Minnesota, if he would break that law, we would actually save $85 million for special programs over the next 5 years to handle things such as Browns Valley or some other thing that the state really needs to do and the people really want to see happen and end the pork.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Alan. Well, as everyone out there knows, in fact, the speaker and I disagree on this. I'm not a big fan at all of the ethanol subsidies, but I'm not sure that the governor actually has the opportunity to, as Alan put it, break the law. I mean, he'd have to get the legislature. They'd have to rejigger the budget. I take it ethanol. There's no one's going to be touching those ethanol subsidies anytime soon, Steve, are they?
Well, actually, they're being phased out.
Are they? Okay.
David. They are being phased out because they were to be there for 10 years to develop this alternative energy, sustainable energy alternatives in Minnesota. So they are being phased out at this time. Obviously, the governor can't do that by himself.
Well, Well, I think you get my idea here that the conveners of special interest, both in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, need to be called on the carpet. And that's what we're doing today at Inform TV. Thanks for listening to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke, Alexandria, Minnesota. Thank you.